And we can see shelling, including a shell dropping directly into the Rhine here. Even just about see engineers running along the treadway bridge for cover there. So a direct hit on the bridge. So this is a film held in the US National Archives today, which got an amazing collection of material available related to the Second World War. This particular reel is shot by Technical Sergeant Roy Atcherson, and he basically turns up into the Remagen area when he hears that the bridge has been captured. So for a little bit of background information, very briefly, this first shot is fascinating in itself, but directly behind where the camera is the famous bridge at Remagen. But it's the capture of that bridge, which is unexpected to all sides, really. The Germans are expecting to blow the thing up. The Americans are expecting the Germans to blow the thing up, and it doesn't get blown up. Or, well, it kind of does. But effectively what happens is this bridge, vital bridge over the Rhine, stays standing, at least for a time, and that opens a huge opportunity, which means massive numbers of American troops flood into the area, massive numbers of German troops flood into the area, both of them trying to basically fight to knock this bridge down or keep it up. Now, this is what we're looking at here. Atcherson is amongst those troops. He basically hears across the wires that there is a bridge still standing and that the Americans have managed to get a foothold on the far side of it. As a result, we're seeing straight away here basically a very bitter fight. You can see troops running into shot just here. These are actually combat engineers, and what they're trying to do is build an additional bridge. In fact, two. They're trying to build a pontoon bridge and a treadway bridge. Because when American troops originally arrived at the big main bridge at Remagen, it was blown up, but in a weird, very strange sequence of events, the whole bridge, by the explosives, was blown bodily into the air and then slammed back down, but slammed back down back on its stanchions. And so it was still, whilst it was disconnected from the road, it was still operational. Now, it was in really bad shape, and it was pretty unlikely it was going to stay standing. In fact, we can even see it in the background right here, just through that smoke, and just about catch views of that bridge. And as a result, what needs to happen is that we need to have other methods of crossing the river for large numbers of traffic, large volumes of traffic created. And this smoke pouring out of here is actually the result of German shell fire trying to knock out the engineers who were building a treadway bridge just close by. So this crane-like vehicle is part of that engineering equipment designed to basically bring a bridge into place. This dates this shot quite well, probably around the 10th, possibly the 11th of March. But this is part of the engineering works to try and get the new bridges in place. Of course, you can't just build a pontoon bridge until you've got a foothold on the other side, and that is in place by this time. We can even see the treadway bridge in the background just there in that shot. Probably an East Bank shot here, so from the German-occupied side, wounded being ferried back across by barge, and we can see medics bringing in the wounded. A nice little detail just here, actually, if I pause for a second. You can see, but the nearer of these guys, you can see the multiple crosses on his helmet. Right running across the top is a serial number. That number you might expect might be his own personal service number. In fact, what it is, it's his Geneva Convention registration number. This was something that medics used to do. It basically says, I'm a non-combatant, and as a non-combatant, I'm protected by various laws according to the Geneva Conventions. And one of them is that medics or non-combatants have to display their number, have to hold it on a card. And a number of people, kind of their own volitions, take up this kind of basically something goes around. You can see another guy with it here where they say, yep, let's paint our Geneva Convention numbers on the top of our helmets. So this marks him out very clearly as a non-combatant. Point worth making here as well is barge is actually super useful for transporting wounded, particularly those with, say, complex femur fractures and stuff like that. They're much better than travelling along a rutted road where you've got a serious risk of further damage, particularly in an area where, like your femur, where you've got big major blood vessels and sharp, jagged bone. Rutted roads are going to be super dangerous. Barges are actually pretty stable. Again, probably east side of the river again. Wounded German soldiers here. You can see from the white tags they were wearing on their uniforms. And this is definitely East Bank. So this is the little village of Unkel, which is basically just north of the bridge crossing area. It's a great shot. Let's pause on this for a second. And there's been some pretty heavy fighting, and Roy Atcherson, who's crossed the river to capture these shots, presumably, is starting to film bits. And this actual location is identifiable. We've covered this in a video before that we did about the taking of the bridge at Remagen. And you can see this thing just here. This is a Flak 38, so a single-barreled German 20mm flak gun. Can be pretty effective in both a ground and anti-aircraft role. But apparently not this one, because you can see it's missing its barrel. It's only got part of the barrel remaining, but this is a bit of German kit. Hi guys, Dan here from the Battle Guide team. I just wanted to drop you a quick message. First of all, long overdue, thank you for all your support. It makes such a huge difference to allowing us to continue this journey of sharing history across the YouTube channel and also across our podcasts, Not So Quiet on the Western Front and World War II, both sides of the wire. I'm out on a bit of a recce at the moment, actually. Currently out in, well, see if somebody can tell me where we are. Drop a comment in here, see if you can figure out exactly where I am right now. But I've got some amazing news I want to share with you. It's really exciting. It's something we've been working on in the background for quite a while, and finally we get to announce it today. So I wanted to share it with you here and with a little personal message to say thank you for your support. It is actually the launch of a new book, and it's called INFERNO. It's going to be out live on the 10th September, but today is pre-release order day, so it's available on audiobook, as print copies, and also as ebook, so you can pick it up on any of various different platforms. We'll provide all the links for that. But effectively what it is, it's our opportunity to share the story of 12 battles from the First and Second World War that myself and my three co-authors, that's Dr. Spencer Jones, Professor Matthias Strone, and Jesse Alexander, all of whom you'll know, have picked out, 3 each, and we're going to be covering those battles which we feel in some way, shape or form shaped the 20th century as we know it today. So I would love it if you'd be willing to support us. It's such a big deal. It's really exciting. It's our first major book that we're putting out. We really hope it does well. And actually this pre-order time period is extremely important because that kind of dictates how algorithms and stuff pick it up and how far this project can go. So if you'd be willing to, we'd love it if you'd give it an opportunity. Check it out. Make your pre-order today. Reserve it for somebody for a bit later in the year. And any support is, of course, hugely appreciated. Thanks very much. See you again soon. We've got white flags waving out windows and presumably a German civilian there. A lot of troops in this area, in fact, lots of white flags. A lot of troops in this area spoke about not having a particularly pleasant reception from the locals. Bear in mind, this isn't fighting through France anymore. This is March 1945. This is a German town. More wounded being brought up. You can tell the weather's extremely cold at this time. March in the Rhine Valley is can be a pretty miserable place to be, but clearly very cold. And some famous jerry cans making their way down as well, presumably to fuel the boat. What's extremely interesting about this actually is this shot that we see right here. Just going to pause on that for a second. It's tells us a lot about the situation. One, you can see the bridge at Remagen in the background. You can just see the spans and the kind of crescent-shaped support over the top there. That's the bridge. And by this time, about the 11th of May, which is about the 11th of March, I should say, about the right date, they're just considering whether they want to keep that bridge open. It's probably about the point where they're closing it because they realize that the structural damage is actually quite catastrophic. Even though it's still standing, there's a huge amount of work needs to go on. And as a result, they've been building these new bridges. One of them here is this one. It's a treadway bridge, and light vehicles, light traffic, and troops can cross it. Probably not tanks, but, you know, half tracks and stuff like that, Jeeps could get across. And then you've got this crane-like feature here, this kind of engineering equipment. This tells us, amongst other things, that this shot is out of sequence because the burning vehicle that we saw a few minutes ago, that is this same one. So this is clearly taken, although it appears in the archive afterwards, it's clearly taken before the explosion. And we can see shelling, including a shell dropping directly into the Rhine here. Even just about see engineers running along the treadway bridge for cover there. So a direct hit on the bridge. Of course, the Germans are basically throwing everything they can at this bridge and at these engineers to try and stop them from being completed. Again, this probably predates as well the situation. This is very likely taken in on the outskirts of Remagen. What we're looking at here is engineering equipment, so pontoons coming down. And two forms. So the pontoon bridge is a slightly heavier one, and that's made of these steel hulled bridges, these steel hulled kind of vessels that you can see. But on top of them is material for the treadway bridge, which are almost giant rubber dinghies. And we'll see both of those in place in this area. As well as throwing artillery at this, the Germans also launched massive air raids. So the guy we just saw there with the 50 cal pointing skywards is amongst a huge concentration of anti-aircraft fire, which is posted around the area to protect those working on the bridges. Gives you an idea of the logistics just here, looking at all of these pontoons being brought up. And someone has clearly found a top hat somewhere in some house. So a guy called Ridge here, this is his reel. It's switched over now from Atcherson and showing some kind of fast motor vessel in the Rhine there. And this is the treadway going into place. So you can see how they create these. Basically, they bring these giant dinghies in, line up the treadway itself, and anchor them in place. So they'll drop a couple of kedge anchors against a pretty fast-flowing river and try and anchor them in place. The good thing about this is it's compartmentalized, so you can bring them on piece by piece, and if a piece gets damaged, you can swap it out quite quickly as well. So the work that the engineers do here is incredible to get this treadway bridge up and running. Something like 24 hours to cross the Rhine River is incredibly impressive. This is an east bank shot, so from the German occupied side. Obviously there's a tow hold, otherwise the cameraman wouldn't be here, but you can see it starts out in Remagen. So this is now from the other bank, and clearly it's been the river's been crossed several times by this cameraman. So some extremely important work going on here. At the same time, just off to our right-hand side at the main Ludendorff Bridge, the true bridge at Remagen, there's incredible amounts of repairs going on to try and keep the thing standing. Tragically, it's going to fall, I think, about the 16th or 17th of March and kill a number of engineers who are working on it. But in the meantime, all of this extra effort is going in to try and sustain the push across on the far bank. A lot of this work carried out under fire as well, which, I mean, these guys are really the unsung heroes of the Second World War, the logisticians. There's the bridge in the background. The logisticians, the engineers, the technical guys, you know, they're doing this kind of stuff under fire the whole time and running quite a lot of risk in doing so. So fascinating little look at the story at the Bridge of Remagen. Eventually, of course, the bridges are up and running. The Germans do get pushed back, and further Rhine crossings take place both north and south of here, which ultimately marks the beginning of the end of the war in Europe.